The afternoon began quietly, almost gently, as Ethan Blake sat on an old wooden bench in a city park, the kind of place where time slowed just enough for tired hearts to breathe. Ethan was 32, tall but slightly hunched from years of carrying responsibility alone, with kind eyes that had learned pain early, and beside him, though never more than a few steps away, was the center of his world, his 5-year-old son Leo, laughing freely as he chased pigeons near the fountain, unaware that his father's heart was constantly calculating safety, money, and survival, because Ethan was a single father not by choice but by tragedy, having lost his wife Claire, his first and only love, 3 years earlier to a sudden, undetected heart condition that shattered their ordinary happiness overnight and left him with grief that never fully slept, medical bills that swallowed his savings, and a toddler who depended on him for everything. Ethan worked as an operations coordinator at a large corporate firm, a job that paid just enough to keep them afloat and offered health insurance, and above him in that world stood Serena Vale, the company's senior executive, brilliant, composed, feared, admired, a woman whose presence filled rooms and whose name alone tightened stomachs, including Ethan's, whenever it appeared in an email, yet to him she was distant, untouchable, more symbol than human, a sharp silhouette behind glass walls. Serena, on the other hand, was a woman carefully constructed, elegant on the surface, controlled to perfection, but beneath the tailored suits and calm authority lived scars carved by a past she rarely allowed herself to remember, a past that included a marriage to Marcus Hale, a charming tyrant who slowly transformed love into control and fear, and though she had escaped him through a brutal divorce and rebuilt herself piece by piece. Career, power, independence. Fear has a way of recognizing its name when spoken aloud. She hadn't planned to be at the park that day, hadn't planned to lower her guard, but when she saw Marcus near the park entrance, laughing with the same cold confidence that once ruled her life, instinct overrode logic, and her eyes searched desperately for safety until they landed on Ethan, a man who looked ordinary, tired, gentle, focused only on his child, and without thinking, without time, she crossed the distance and dropped onto his lap, trembling, using his body as a shield. In that instant, Ethan felt the world tilt, the quiet afternoon collapsing into something dangerous, the scent of expensive perfume mixed with panic wrapping around him as Serena's breath came fast and uneven, her eyes fixed behind the trees, and Ethan didn't turn around because he didn't need to. His life had taught him how fast peace could break, and something deep inside told him that whatever had just landed in his lap was not random but destiny pressing its thumb on his chest. Calmly, deliberately, he adjusted his posture, creating the illusion of closeness without drawing attention, his arm resting naturally as if nothing were wrong, his gaze fixed on Leo, while around them the park continued. Children laughing, dogs barking, couples strolling, life blissfully unaware of the silent battle happening on that bench, minutes stretched, heavy and endless, until Serena finally dared to look back and realized Marcus was gone, the tension draining from her body all at once, leaving her exposed and shaking, and she stood abruptly, murmured an apology Ethan barely heard, and disappeared down the path before he could even ask her name. From that day forward, subtle changes began. Serena noticed Ethan's work, asked his opinion, trusted him with responsibility, and late nights eventually revealed the truth that Serena was unraveling, that Marcus had resurfaced in her life, threatening lawsuits, spreading rumors, using every psychological weapon he once wielded, and Ethan, with his quiet strength forged by loss and love, became an anchor she hadn't known she needed. Still, Ethan struggled, torn between fatherhood and empathy, questioning how much he had left to give when he was still racing to daycare, packing lunches, reading bedtime stories through exhaustion, until he remembered that kindness was not something that diminished when shared, but something that grew. Serena, watching him honor his late wife with reverence rather than bitterness, watching him love his son with patience and humility, began to relearn what safety felt like, not as control but as trust, and the turning point came on a storm-soaked evening when Ethan received a call from an unknown number and heard Serena's voice shaking. Marcus had cornered her in a parking garage, leaving her terrified, and Ethan didn't hesitate, driving through the rain with Leo asleep in the back seat, finding Serena stripped of her armor, smaller than he'd ever seen her, and in that moment titles dissolved, leaving only two broken people choosing courage. What followed was not dramatic romance but slow healing, legal boundaries, therapy sessions, quiet dinners, shared silences. Ethan earned a promotion he deserved, Serena reclaimed her power without fear, and together they returned often to the park where it had all begun. Watching Leo grow braver, Serena laughed softer, and Ethan learned that opening his heart again did not betray the love he had lost but honored it, until love finally arrived gently, patiently, built on trust earned through shared survival, proving that in the end it wasn't the dramatic moment on a park bench that defined them, but the choice to remain kind in a world that offered reasons not to, the the courage to trust again after loss and betrayal, and the quiet truth that sometimes the safest place you can land is not a fortress built alone, but the lap of a stranger who decides, without hesitation, to hold steady when you need it most. This heartfelt journey is brought to you by True Stories by M, where real emotions meet real kindness.